welcome back to my channel. My name is Lloyd Summers, and today we're gonna upgrade some hard drives. So if you're like me and you like the Acer Predator series of laptops, which are a fantastic price and really good hardware and really good quality for virtual reality headset and equipment and stuff like that, this laptop is amazing. This one is the Predator Triton 300. Most of their new Predators are like this. So one of the challenges though is it's very easy to fill up this hard drive. So I'm going to show you in these newer gamer style computers is how the hard drives get updated. But there are a lot of different hard drive types. That's your typical desktop. This is a typical SSD. Lighter, smaller, faster, more expensive. And this is a standard laptop spinning disk drive. It's like one of these, but smaller. That's the main difference. I won't go into how the technology works because I don't think it matters to most people. But what is important to know is that these SSDs are significantly multiple levels faster over these older spinning drives that spin, and they have a little plotter that has to go and read all the information. This is much more instant. And now these days, this is the new SSD. Very, very small. So we're gonna pop this open. I'll show you inside the Triton 300 at least. Now the first thing we're gonna do is make sure if you've got a light blinking that you power your computer on, because that means it's in sleep mode or standby. Log in. If you don't have the login, just hold down the power key until it shuts down all the way. But you want to power it off all the way. Even in sleep mode, it might try to wake up. And if you're in the middle of removing a hard drive and it comes alive and it's trying to read that hard drive, especially if you've got these older ones which are prone to failures, you got to be really, really cautious. So there we go. I've powered it all the way off. That little light is going to shut off. There we go. And now we can install our hard drive. So I'm going to bring the camera in closer and show you hands-on what it takes to replace or update a hard drive on one of these and what you're looking for. It's a little confusing if you're new to the newer computers, but we will walk through all of this together. Now you're going to need a screwdriver. These precision sets these days are very cheap. You can buy them online for next to $20, $30. And they'll get you all of the custom screw heads and screwdriver heads that you're gonna need. In this case, we just need a Phillips head screwdriver. Now, a lot of these laptops are meant to be opened quickly. And actually, the first thing I do when I get a new laptop is open it up and take a photo of everything inside so that if a hard drive dies or something like that, I don't have to reopen it up. I can just look at the photos to remind myself what needs to be replaced. Now, things like the Predator are meant to be laptops you can upgrade at home. Okay, so now that we've got that taken care of, we can go ahead and begin opening this up. Depending on your laptop, you might be able to just slide a fingernail in there and pop it open if you're really careful. There are little plastic openers that are kind of like a guitar pick that you can go around the outside. And I'm actually going to go ahead and do just that. So I'm going to take a regular old guitar pick and use that to get in here. Let me re-pop this up. And the far back corners are the ones that are usually easiest to open on these. Go slow. Once you get 2 or 3, the rest will just pop right up. So this is where I usually will just switch to fingernails. So you probably can't see it, but there's little clips all along here, like so. And there's nothing attached on these, so they're safe to just pop off. But the little clips tie in along here. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, and I'll show you what we're going to change out. So now let's talk about what's in here. There's a bunch of different parts. A lot of gaming laptops are like this. They're going to have different things in different spots. If they have a traditional hard drive slot, it's going to be something large like this that will fit one of these in there. and you'll see connectors for it. In this particular case, and in most newer laptops, especially thin ones, if they're home upgradable, you're going to see these, which are very thin, very small hard drives. And depending on the model, you're going to have a couple. This one has two right here. This one's a long M2. This is for the hard drive, and then it's got a shorter run M2 style that's used for Wi-Fi cards and things like that. You need to check and figure out if you need a large or a small. There's even another size, but we won't go into that. These are the two most common, and almost all the new computers use this one. But there are a handful, especially custom Dell, that tend to use these. So yeah, what you're going to be looking for is something like this. It's going to be a mounting slot with a jack or with a screw on the side. In this case, we have a mirrored one on this side. So what that means is I can take one of these and I can put it over here. And if I look carefully enough, there might even be wording in here somewhere about that. If not, it will tell you in the user guide. So don't be afraid to take a look there if you need to. If you were to upgrade your RAM, that is done here. So this is a good example of why it can be helpful at this point to take a picture of your computer. This also helps because if you break anything, well, now you got a picture of what it used to look like. And by taking a photo, you can keep track of what you might need to replace parts with. So, pretty straightforward in this case. If I was to try to upgrade this hard drive, and I've done this in other videos, you can see that I use software to clone this onto the new drive and swap it out. In this case, I'm going to add a brand new second drive. Yeah. And in this case, I'm adding 2 terabytes of storage, which is quite a bit, especially for these smaller drives. Now, that Phillips head screw that you use, you're staying on the same one. Most decent computer manufacturers keep everything as a Phillips head. When they try to like find ways to oversell you on features with their proprietary version of hard drives and stuff like that, which is when they kind of like, instead of putting a cheap 30-cent connector on the board like this, they will choose to mount that on the board, and usually it's done by soldering. And so they won't spend the 30 cents and they'll solder it right to the board, stopping you from being able to use it, which is very uncool. But it's giving me a little bit of resistance and I don't know why. I'm not sure. I can try my other drive and see how it works. I see. So this is coming in at a really steep angle. Some of these mounts work a little different from the other mounts. Oh, there you go. Coming in at a steep angle, got it in there nicely. You want to see these almost entirely covered by the plastic. And you'll want to also be a little mindful with your screwdriver. These screwdrivers get magnetized. And although most computers aren't damaged by magnets, older drives definitely did get damaged by them. And so you need to be pretty cautious. Now, you want to have a good tight fit. So you want to go until this is tight. Because if it rattles loose, it might, that's where you start having hard drive problems with these ones. But because they have no moving parts, because they are pretty straightforward, they are a lot less prone to a breakage compared to old hard drives. They're also phenomenally faster. This one, like I said, is a newer SSD, and it is still way faster than the spinning disk, and this one still is faster than that one. So the short answer is, if you're trying to get a hard drive, try to get one of these in here. They're just a whole lot faster. But actually, we're done. So now, that was it. We have our hard drive installed. It was just a matter of taking the screws out, lining it up, popping it in. Just go slow and careful. So there we go. Not so scary when you've actually sat down and done it. It's a little intimidating beforehand. Afterwards, not bad. And you want to go around until you see all of the surfaces closed. And then each of these go in there. Now sometimes I'll put all the screws on top of the holes and do them one at a time, but then I'm prone to forgetting to screw one in. If I do it this way, I'm more likely to catch them all. But that'll be it. So what we'll do next is spin the computer around and we shall start it right up. So there we go. Now, you may not want to put the screws in right away. Sometimes it helps to leave the screws off until you've tested the hard drive and make sure it works. There are times where I've had a faulty hard drive, done all of this, packaged this up because I'm in a rush, go to boot it up, and the new drive's a failure. So there we go. I'll go ahead and bring the camera around and we will, and I'll show you everything you're going to go through once that happens. But the next part is going to be plugging this in. Okay, so with the hard drive replaced, it's time for us to boot this up. Thought about bringing the camera over here, but instead I will just put a big view up of what I see. Software updates. There we go. Yeah, so once we've got the new hard drive in, I'm gonna go ahead, you might not have this here, hold down the Windows key and press E, that opens Explorer. That's the quickest way. And in this case, I'm gonna click on this PC, and you're gonna see my old hard drive, which is very, very full. This is my special Google Drive, you don't need to worry about that one, but you'll see that the new hard drive we purchased isn't listed. And that happens a lot. So we're going to click on this, we're going to type in computer management. This is going to show us a bunch of information. We could go into here and try to check for disk drives. I only see the one, all of that stuff. Well, what you really want to look at is disk management. So disk management is what shows you where all the hard drives are and what they're doing and how they're set up. So ideally, when we click on this one, we should see our new hard drive listed below. In this case, we don't.
One eternity later.
Okay. Interestingly enough, that fixed it. So yeah, basically, I've rebooted the laptop. We're back. And now when I open it up, I still don't see the drive here, which is perfectly fine. That's not abnormal. Now if we type in here, however, device manager, we can take a look and see, and sure enough, under disk drives, we can see our 1 terabyte and our new 2 terabyte. So it is there. So we'll go back and click on that again and type in computer management, disk management. It should take a minute to think. It's going to take longer the more hard drives you have. USB drives, other drives that you've added on are all going to do that. Now you'll see it's asking, what do I want to do with this new disk? I'm going to just leave it as is for what we're doing. I won't go into how boot records and stuff like that works. There's way more thorough things to go into that. What I will say is if you're not sure, just hit enter. Both are going to work on your computer. One just has less drives that can be formatted that way, but it won't let you try if you can't, so it doesn't really cause a problem. Pick your new drive. We're going to go ahead and right click and pick new simple volume, because the problem is just because the hard drive's found doesn't mean it's being used for anything. So we're going to create a new simple volume. We're going to use up the entire amount. You could split this up if you want multiples. A new drive letter. I'm going to go with D, because I usually have C as my main and D as my second. We're going to hit next, leave this all in. The volume label, this is a good opportunity to call it something. I'm going to call it data 2 terabyte, just so I know what it is. Or I might call it M2 2 terabyte. Quick format, do not check compression. Compression lets you add more files, but it makes the drive slower. And then go through your options and hit finish. The whole process should take only seconds. It could take a minute at most, but that's it. So now when I go back to here, I'll see my C drive, which is completely full, and my D drive, which is almost completely empty. That's very good. So now what I'm going to do, last but not least, I'm going to close any programs I have running, and I'm going to start deciding what to move over. Now, I already knew I was going to be doing this. So I've taken a folder called data and installed everything there that I thought I would one day need to move to the new drive. I could show you how to use TerraCopy or other copy tools for doing this, but that's not always the most valuable. And realistically, I kind of want you to have the easiest way. So I'm going to show you kind of a quick way to copy this to your new drive without worry. Okay, so all I'm going to do, really straightforward, is right click and go cut. My new drive, right click, go paste. Now this is going to break any applications that are set to this folder. I'm going to show you what you can do to move all of these files over and not break anything. And to do that is kind of easy, but it's a little bit tricky if you've never done it before. So while this is running in the background, I'll explain it kind of like this. Once this folder is gone, nobody on the computer, no system is going to know where to find it because it's moved. Even though it's the same name, they're not going to find it. So what we can do is create something called a symlink. It's a symbolic link. And what that means is when somebody goes to the C drive's data, it'll forward them automatically to the D drive's data. It's kind of like a shortcut, but it's used by the file system. So, and I'll give you an example. Let's say we had a folder called docs. And we wanted to move that one over. And let's create a test doc. If I open it up in Word, you can see that test doc is stored under C docs. So how do we move that? I'll give you an example, because we don't want to wait for this whole thing to copy for me to show you. So I'll just show you on this fake docs folder. So to do that, we're going to right click and pick cut, go to our other drive and click paste. So our C docs is gone. If I open Word and I click on that document, it can't find it, which is what you'd expect. So what do? This is a very special command. Click on Start, type in CMD for command prompt, right click, and Run as Administrator. Yes. Now that you've got Run as Administrator done, we're going to go CD space / That should take you all the way to C:/. If you type dir, it'll show you everything in there, including the missing docs folder. So what we're going to do, to make a directory, you normally right click and make a directory, or you do md docs. And that creates a docs folder, but it's empty because you removed all of the documents. So that's not going to work. So what we need to do is use mklink, makelink. And in there you can see there's a /d command to make a directory, a symbolic link, the link and the target. So we're going to type makelink /d, docs, exact caps, everything the way you did before, and then d/docs. And you should see symbolic link created for docs. Now if I go in here and I refresh, you'll see there's a docs with a little icon. When I click on it, it still says C docs, but it shows me test document. Here if I go to docs, it shows me my test document. If I save the word Bob in my D docs test, I'll see the word Bob and my CDocs test. They're linked. It's a symbolic link. It means that it'll always go to that same file. And if I launch Word, see how it's got C or D? They both lead to that same file. So Windows and pretty much every program is going to see that as an identical copy. What that means is that all of the files and programs, when you hit run, all of that stuff, it's going to think that it's on your C drive even though you moved it. It's not super important, but what that can do, and what is important about that, is it allows you to move an entire application without the application even knowing, and store it at the new place. And because I had stored everything under C data, and I'm moving all of my C data, I can do a symbolic link and it'll point to all of those files just the same as the docs. So that's really it. That's all I wanted to show you, is how to make that symbolic link and move a bunch of your files over. You could do more, like right click on your documents, go to properties, change the location from C to D, start moving all your personal docs and all of that stuff. That's all very common. It's basically just moving all the stuff off your C drive to another drive that you can then use later. So that's it. I'm gonna let this run and process and move all of my applications over. We've already seen that the files work and load off the new drive, and that a symbolic link works. So that's really it. It's about as long as it takes to copy the files and point a link. And when we're done, this C drive is going to have a much smaller footprint. It's already freeing up space. It's just small amounts at a time. So now it's already freed up 59.3 and growing. And you want to let this go. Now, like I kind of hinted at before, there are specific programs you might want to use. There are specific programs you might want to use to make the copying more reliable. Go ahead and use those. TerraCopy is one that I like. Use one you're comfortable with. That's really the important part. And that's it. It's a scary process until you've done it a whole bunch of times, but the process is open the case, install the drive, close the case, start up Windows, check if the drive is listed. If the drive isn't listed, open that computer management console, which takes you to the disk management console, which allows you to initialize that drive. The last two steps would be move your files over and then create a symbolic link to them. And that'll let you continue to chase those files forever, as long as you want, across as many drives as you want, until it's all spread out and you don't have as much cluster on one system. So hopefully that was interesting to you. It does show you an easy way to add an M2 drive and configure it and move a bunch of files over. It shows you a way of adding an M2 drive and moving application folders without causing any new problems. So let me know what you think. If you have any questions, anything in there I can add more detail on, just drop a comment down below. Other than that, if you subscribe, it helps me out a lot. If you leave me a comment, it gives me an idea of the things you like. And as always, the more people who like these videos, the less likely they are to buy a $300 hard drive from a manufacturer that's $50 online and just installing it themselves. So thank you so much. I had a blast making this quick video. I hope you found this informational, and have an absolutely wonderful evening.